For an insight into the current state of the British penal system, the case of Denny De Silva is as instructive as it is deeply worrying. A convicted drug dealer and murderer, De Silva converted to Islam after being jailed in 2016. Since then, he has been a dangerous presence in every prison he has been placed in. His behavior includes assaulting inmates who reject his views and smuggling in mobile phones to circulate violent propaganda linked to the Islamic State. Prison reports label the 32-year-old as an extremist enforcer who manipulates and incites other Muslim prisoners wherever he goes. His influence was deemed so toxic that in 2023, authorities relocated him to a separation center, SC, a unit designed to isolate radicalized prisoners from the wider population. SC units, housing fewer than 10 men each, were set up in several high-security prisons as a direct response to the threat of Islamist extremism within British jails. These prisons within prisons are meant to hinder dangerous ideologues from spreading radical messages and recruiting others. Despite his record, De Silva resisted the relocation. Insisting on returning to a standard wing, he even launched a court case with legal aid, claiming that his human rights were breached by the conditions in the SC. Details from his high court hearing paint a different picture from what many imagine. Although he had access to a gym and a library, he complained that these privileges, along with his computer use, were limited. He argued that educational opportunities amounted to watching documentaries and taking quizzes rather than an actual GCSE English exam. Nutrition sessions were reduced to reading leaflets. Cooking classes involved following recipes without hands-on instruction, and gardening was limited to watering tomato plants. Job opportunities were mostly restricted to cleaning or painting. De Silva's legal team maintained that these conditions worsened his anxiety and depression. Remarkably, the court agreed that his rights under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights had been breached. He was returned to a normal wing and may even receive financial compensation. Yet, this case is just one facet of a much larger crisis. It unfolds alongside violent events at HMP Franklin, once home to De Silva in separation. On a Saturday morning, 3 officers were hospitalized after Hashem Abedi, convicted for assisting a suicide bomb attack at Manchester Arena that killed 22 people, attacked them. Abedi poured boiling oil on the guards and stabbed them with blades he fashioned from baking trays. One officer suffered a near-fatal neck wound, another multiple stab wounds puncturing a lung, and a female officer was also injured. Abedi, who planned the assault in the prison kitchen, had access to the same facilities as De Silva. Investigators are now probing whether radical preacher Anjem Choudary, also held in the Franklin SC and dubbed the daddy of the unit, played a role in inciting the attack. Choudary, in leaked recordings, mocked separation units, arguing they provide extremists a safe space to connect and operate. The attack ignited fury among prison staff, politicians, and Manchester bombing survivors. Martin Hibbert, left paralyzed by the bombing, called the assault a catastrophic failure of prison security. Critics denounce what they see as a system that prioritizes prisoners' rights over the safety of staff and other inmates. Former prison governor Ian Atchison, whose review led to the creation of SCs, insists that terrorists like Abedi should face total isolation. Some people cannot be redeemed, he declared, and they must be contained until they pose no further threat. De Silva's court victory has, however, complicated efforts to adopt a tougher stance. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick labeled the ruling a gift to the extremists running our prisons. According to Jenrick, high-security prisons are now dominated by self-declared brotherhood gangs. Non-Muslim inmates often feel forced to convert for protection, as these gangs control everything from meal menus to prayer schedules and enforce their rules with violent means. In some facilities, these groups have even established their own Sharia courts. The numbers are startling. While Muslims make up just 6.5% of the general UK population, they account for 18% of the prison population and over 20% in high-security jails. At HMP Whitemoor, the figure soars to 45%. Many of these inmates are not lifelong believers, but converts, often joining for survival on the wings of violent groups. Some notorious figures, including serial killer Levi Belfield, now known as Yusuf Rahim, have converted to avoid attacks by rival inmates. Meanwhile, prison staff, fearful of accusations of racism or confrontation, often turn a blind eye. One lawyer noted that in prisons like Whitemore, many converts join gang hierarchies within hours of arrival, with one inmate describing the process as automatic. Non-Muslim prisoners, left unprotected, see far-right gangs growing in response, escalating the risk of violent ethnic and religious clashes. The phrase convert or get hurt at is a brutal reality, forcing vulnerable inmates to join gangs merely to survive. Even individuals convicted of heinous crimes, such as child killer Irfan Sharif, find protection inside by Islamist gangs that treat their actions as family matters. Reformed prisoner Ricky Killeen, who now runs Behind the Bars TV on YouTube, says this issue is nationwide. Families of inmates fear for the safety of their loved ones and call for segregated wings for non-extremists. Yet the solution raises further questions about the balance between prisoners' rights and public safety. The prison service asserts that it is tackling the problem through targeted training and reviews. However, many officers express deep concern. I dread going to work. The gangs run the wings, and we're no longer in control.